Hi, I want to make a quick video about how to think clearly. It's really important today to use the skill of critical thinking to filter the information that comes at us so often on a daily basis. There's so many platforms today that people can sign up for free. Many people have access to some sort of smartphone. And so there's so much information, so many opinions, so many hot takes. It can be pretty difficult to figure out what is good information and what is trash. So you're either a sponge, taking everything all in, or you're a filter, deciding what is relevant and what is true. I'm sure you've heard about fake news and all the misinformation that's going on today. It's important to think clearly. So, having made a case for that, in this video, I want to talk about four things: managed reasoning, how to identify issues, reasons, and conclusions. So let's start with managed reasoning. Think about a barrister. When a client comes to a barrister, the client is usually on one side of the story, and he or she needs the barrister to support his side of the story. So for the barrister, that is a form of managed reasoning. They have to see the conclusion where the client is at and then start finding reasons to support that side of the story. Managed reasoning is when you lead an argument or an opinion with a conclusion, and then you're looking for reasons to support that conclusion. It's so easy to see that managed reasoning is not always the best. In fact, it's usually biased and it could be untrue. So the first thing you want to pay attention to is when you hear some information or you see an opinion, is this some sort of managed reasoning? Have they taken all the relevant factors into account? Or is this more of personal preferences or just looking at it from one point of view? That leads us nicely into how to identify issues. When you are presented with any form of information, the first thing you want to do is to identify what is the question here. What's the main thing that this article or this information is addressing? And there are several ways you can do that. You can figure out what sentence or what phrase is being answered. So when you read a passage, you probably see so many sentences, and you want to see which of these sentences can be answered by other sentences. So the question is why. When you're looking for issues, you're looking for the why of the writing. When you found what the whole passage seems to be addressing, the next thing you want to find is the conclusion. The conclusion is what is the answer to the issue you've just found? What's the answer to the why? I'll give you an example. Should children be allowed to use smartphones? The research shows that most children that use smartphones are not able to develop healthy relationships or friendships in their younger years with their peers. Also, children that have so much access or frequent access to smartphones don't seem to perform very well at school. Therefore, children should not be granted access to smartphones. It's a pretty generic, pretty simple statement. Not statement, a group of statements. It's a pretty simple argument. Here, what is the issue? The issue is easy to spot because I've asked it in form of a question. Should children be allowed to use smartphones? That's a question and that's an issue. That's what we're trying to answer. The next thing is how to identify the conclusion. The conclusion is the answer to the question, like I just said. The conclusion is usually preceded with things like therefore, that is why, thus, etc. It's showing that this is the outcome of having researched or tried to answer this question. Once you found the conclusion, you found the issue, then you want to find the reasons. What are the reasons that support the conclusion? What is the why the conclusion makes sense? Studies have shown that children who have access to smartphones don't develop healthy relationships among their peers. That is one reason. The second reason, they also don't seem to perform very well academically. Those are the things that support the conclusion. Now you've been able to analyze this argument. The next thing is, are these reasons sufficient? Are these reasons looking at only one part of the puzzle? Are they looking at only one point of view? What is the argument against these reasons? When you're able to pick apart an argument like this, you're going to start thinking more critically because you begin to see loopholes in arguments. You begin to see that some reasons are not just sufficient to support the conclusion, or they are not broad enough to cover enough cases that support that conclusion. I intend to make this a very simple, quick video, but I've talked about managed reasoning, where you lead with a conclusion, and I've talked about how you can begin to identify the questions, the issues, the reasons, and the conclusions in an argument. I'll try to keep this as a series, so I'll explore more on this topic and show how when we receive information today, online, social media, etc., we need to be careful to be able to see what are all the parts of the argument and begin to see if this is actually something that is good information or is just propaganda or is just whatever is popular. I'll see you next time.